Welcome to the FiveStack, everybody. We're back, and we have a humdinger for you today. Apologize for being a little bit late. That is Zev's fault. Even me with a swollen face showed up on time. Not you. You're late because you were doom scrolling. That's what you said.
I was basically just waiting for the time to arrive, and it was, I thought it was earlier for some reason, but it wasn't. I looked up and I was like, oh my gosh, it's 3:07. I better get on here. So here we are.
Dude, I'm just happy to have you. We've got a few stories to get to. It's going to be a bit of a hodgepodge today. We've got some great news about Mark Carney. We've got some great news about Canada. We've got some concerning news about Trump's War Department. His hand has never looked worse. He just held two of the most disastrous, incoherent press conferences I've ever seen. We'll get to that. And we're going to spend some time today breaking down some of Zeb's incredible work, which you're going to see very shortly. You might have seen some dribs and drabs, but the top however many that we can get to, lies that Ghislaine Maxwell told during her deposition, and we'll tie that back into the Epstein files dump, which was a fucking joke on Friday, but we've got lots of stuff to get to today. And before we do, a couple of people when I was on with Lev were asking me about my face. Yeah, sometimes my face swells up. Lip diagnosed with angioedema today. So it's just hereditary. So if you see me with a swollen lip sometimes on here, no, I don't take any days off. Yes, we're going to continue to do this. Yes, I'm going to be just fine. But for all of you that are like, what's wrong with your eye and your face? It was real big. It was real big. I looked like Sloth from Goonies before.
I thought it was an allergy when you last described it when you were away on your vacation. Is it an allergy?
Yeah, angioedema is an allergy. Yeah, it's when your immune system takes it in the teeth, and you get. Her husband has that, and you got to manage it with a whole bunch of different things. Everybody's laughing about lip filler. Yeah, women pay a lot of money for what happens here sometimes. Everybody, so do dudes. Just want to point that out. But anyway, nothing to worry about. I'm fine. Thank you for your kind words, everybody. Really appreciate it. I'm just here to get to the FiveStack and to see my friend Zev Shalev's beautiful face and to get to some of the work that you've done. Where do you want to start today?
No, your face is beautiful, regardless of whether
I was all swollen and fucked up.
I don't notice that the lighting doesn't even. I didn't even notice it. There you go.
Yeah, right there. See?
Yeah.
I couldn't move my lips earlier either. I legitimately felt like Jocelyn Wildenstein this morning when I woke up. Cat lady, remember her?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
How could I forget her?
Yeah.
So I don't know where to start. Maybe we should start with the Department of War, because that happened most recently. Then we'll get into Carney next. But President Trump explicitly called for changing the Department of Defense back to the Department of War, stating we want defense, but we want offense too, during a press conference. So this is with a bunch of EOs that they were signing today. Trump argued that America won World War I, won World War II, won everything when it was called the Department of War. But now, with the Department of Defense, we're just defenders. It all happened in 1947, by the way, when the name was changed. But there is something, it's funny, except that it's kind of serious. I mean, he's sort of beginning to signal offensive war is okay.
Yeah. This is the non-war president you're talking about?
The non-war president is about to launch a war into Mexico to fight cartels, maybe take on Greenland because it's his, maybe Canada, who knows? He's Panama.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming, right? If you pay attention to people like Zev, Olga, Lev, anybody in the know, Malcolm Nance, you know that he is preparing to go to war with Mexico. You know that he has annexation dreams and forcible takeover dreams of Greenland. You know that he's got, a desire to go and get Canada as well. So, but let's just call this what it is, which is just childish fucking insanity by a pathological liar looking for any way to distract you from the fact that on Friday, he had Ghislaine Maxwell put out a beautiful little 10-hour interview, which was heavily edited, where she talked about how great he was, and he's never done anything wrong in his whole life. He's a lovely gentleman. Something that no one has ever called him, by the way.
Yeah.
Ever.
A gentleman, never.
And so that's part of this distraction, but a lot of it is just bullshit. Like, a lot of it is that performative nature of Donald Trump, the performative nature of Pete Hegseth, and to give people the idea, to give other nations the idea that he's a tough guy and he represents a tough country that's willing to go and kick the shit out of other countries at a moment's notice if they have something that he wants. And that is the entire purpose behind him deciding that he wants to rename the Department of the Defense to the Department of War. And let me just clear something up. The United States didn't win World War One. It took them years to get involved. England, France, Canada, they won World War One. Who won World War Two? The United States took 2.5 fucking years to get involved in World War II. Canada was in it the entire time. We led raids on beaches in Normandy and Juno. The United States was Johnny come fucking lately. And we all know that. We all know that the United States Department of War has lost every single war they've gone in on their own. Korea, Vietnam, you name it.
That was called Department of Defense then. It's
Yeah,
different.
Department of Defense. And so what Donald Trump is trying to do is he's trying to convince Americans that the reason why we lost those wars is because it was called the Department of fucking Defense.
Yeah, it's
And
basically
when
the
we
reasoning.
were winning wars,
Yeah.
it was the Department of War. And let me just remind you that they didn't win those fucking wars either.
Yeah. Yeah. America's not been very good at wars in the last 100 years. But more than
shit at it. They got lots of really nice stuff, but they're isolationist. Like fucking Churchill had to beg them for years to get involved, to the point where America was like, well, we'll do something called the Lend-Lease, where we'll get some horses, we'll get them to drag some fighter jets over the border into Canada, and then, you guys just come get them. Because we don't want to get involved. We don't want to put Americans in harm's way, which is like, that's America's MO, always has been, always will be. They'll only fight for themselves. They'll only fight for the greedy. They'll only fight for what America stands for, which is how much fucking money can we take from you? And that's generally speaking, every single president, war cabinet, secretary of defense that has sent Americans to war has sent them to war under the guise of pure, unadulterated bullshit. And when it mattered, they were Johnny come lately to the fucking party. World War I and World War II.
Although, to give them credit, after World War II, renaming it the Department of Defense was the right idea. Thinking about the world in a post-World War II way, which included NATO, which included, this naming of the Department of Defense, but also leaning in on the United Nations a lot more, has actually been very good for the world. We've avoided a lot of serious conflicts in the last 100, maybe let's call it 80 years. And what we're now going back to with Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is this, new era of imperialism where we can now attack countries that we just want. We want Ukraine? Let's grab Ukraine. You want Mexico? Go for it. Greenland? Yeah, sure, no problem. What about Taiwan? This is a never-ending slippery slope that leads the world into a world war. And that's where Donald Trump is taking us.
Yeah,
He's taking
absolutely.
us to a world war.
Absolutely he is. And he doesn't care if he does, because what he'll do is that'll give him, I don't know if you remember last week when he had Zelensky in the Oval Office with the EU leaders.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we're going to have an election after the war is done. That's why we're trying to get a ceasefire. That's what he said to Trump. Trump's like, so you don't call an election when you're in a war? So maybe in the next 3.5 years, if we're in a fucking war, then we're not going to go to war. Like literally, that's how he thinks.
Yeah.
It's everything around Donald Trump is about Donald Trump. Whether it be beautifying Washington, D.C., that's about Donald Trump. He knows more about grass than anybody else in the whole world. He knows grass. I'm the best guy at grass. Grass. Or whether or not he knows the most about electric vehicles, or the most, like, everything comes back to him. And I watched the South Korean. First of all, I don't know if you saw, but Donald Trump is rotting to death. His hand looks disgusting. It's not even a growth. It's like he's decaying in front of our eyes. But I watched this insane press conference with the leader of South Korea, the new president of South Korea. And the president of South Korea has a book on Donald Trump, like Carney has a book on Donald Trump. And he's like, wow, yeah. And he licked his balls perfectly. Like, he's just, you're a transition. You're like a transformative president. It's really awesome to be here. So nice to be here. We want to be friends of the United States. And maybe could you give Kim Jong-un a call? Because I would love to play golf with you in North Korea at the hotel that he promised you. It was one of the fucking greatest mockery jobs I've ever seen in my life. Very Carney-esque. And Donald Trump is so fucking stupid. He lapped it up. He's like, yeah, I'll bring you there for a round of golf. That'd be great. And what he basically said to him was like, hey, we know you're going to get like a hotel there just for being friends with the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And shit. So like, wouldn't mind playing golf with you if you can do something about our relationship with him. That'd be great. He's like,
yeah, if you could actually focus on our problem here and not your hotels, we might be okay. Here's the other thing he said at that one of those press conferences. This is the earlier one. Yeah, let me play it for you.
And they say, we don't need him. Freedom. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person. And when I see what's happening to our cities, and then you send in troops, instead of being praised, they're saying you're trying to take over the republic.
Dean?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
There we are. You're here, folks. You're here. That's Donald Trump. Everything he's doing right now is to warm you up to what he wants you to submit yourself to. And that little fucking leak, and this is the problem that Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, has, and everybody around him, is the fucking dotard is starting to say all the quiet, really shitty parts out loud.
You're right. He really is.
And for him to say, freedom, 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 it's all I hear, is a dictator. And what he's trying to do is he's projecting on J.B. Pritzker. J.B. Pritzker was asked, he's the governor of Illinois, was asked what he's going to do because Donald Trump said he's going to send the National Guard there. And J.B. Pritzker is like, yeah, we're not doing that. So he can try if he wants, but we're not fucking doing that. And so that was Donald Trump's response. After that, he also called him a fat slob and did the same thing with Chris Christie, warning people. It's that retribution tour. Talked to Lev about it in the previous Substack Live today. He is, for all intents and purposes, trying to not just warm you up to his coming police state in 19 different blue states and cities. He is also trying to warm you up to the idea that you voted for this. You want a dictator, and he's just fine being a dictator. At the same time, projecting that onto one of the most beloved governors in the United States of America, a guy named J.B. Pritzker. Oh, no, he's a dictator. But then he lets it slip. Well, a lot of people say they want a dictator, though.
Yeah.
Right in the fucking middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. Maybe we like a dictator. Maybe
because that's what a lot of people say that know anything about fucking.
And then he's like, I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I mean, it really is. It's just projection, right? It's just obviously him saying what he is and what he's going to be. And along with the Department of War, he just keeps hinting at the stuff or suggesting it, and it sort of gets into the zeitgeist, and suddenly we'll all accept it as being the way things are. But, this is what you're pointing out is correct. It's all about Epstein. It's all about covering the tracks for what's really being hidden by the Department of Justice. And what they're doing is a major cover-up, and this is as much deflection as they can possibly get their hands on. However, in north of the border, in Canada, this is a number 4 story, things are looking a little different because there's a lot of real stuff going on in terms of foreign policy. And the Prime Minister, Carney, just back from a visit to Kyiv, where he has met
he's still in Europe, dude. He's still in
Europe, yes. Yeah. But he's not, yes. But he's left Kyiv, I think, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, yeah.
And he's been talking a lot about providing them with not only finances, but also potentially troops on the ground.
Yeah, this is a big one. First, let me say this. I am so fucking grateful Mark Carney is our prime minister. And I say this all the time. I go on a tangent about Mark Carney. I am not a card-carrying member of any party. I only have ever voted for Mark Carney, never voted for any liberal ever in my life prior to this election. But I didn't vote liberal. I voted for Mark Carney. Didn't matter. Mark Carney is more conservative than anything when it comes to his financial leanings. Mark Carney is more conservative when it comes to the economy. Mark Carney is incredibly socially minded when it comes to social awareness, social justice, and world issues. Mark Carney understands something, that if we do not go all in Ukraine, Canada, and all of our allies, we are going to have a fucking problem in the Arctic. A major problem in the Arctic. Because if you watch the Alaska bullshit summit between Putin or the body double and Trump, they talked more about the Arctic than they talked about fucking peace in Ukraine. Now, why is that? Because they want it. They want all the shipping lanes. They want the rare earth materials. They want all the energy that's underneath the ice, underneath the ground. It is so mineral rich, and Canada owns so much of the land that they want for their own purposes, that if we don't stop Donald Trump in Ukraine, we're going to have a way more difficult time trying to stop Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in the Arctic Circle. And that is why when you talk to Mark Carney or you listen to him, he talks about things like we're not going to go with the F-35 jets because they're not good for cold climate. And the number one priority for Canada's sovereignty and national security is the Arctic. It is the Arctic. With global warming, whoever owns that space can tell everybody how. I know you have, and you've been saying that for fucking far too long. And now everybody
5 years, 6 years,
yeah. And so we've done shows on it.
Yeah.
And so what's really fascinating about Mark Carney secretly, by the way, going to Ukraine, standing shoulder to shoulder with Volodymyr Zelensky, announcing an immediate $2 billion aid package, drones, munitions, armored vehicles, armored personnel carriers, $2 billion, no questions asked. Our fight is your fight. Our borders are your borders. His speech this weekend, standing in Sofia Square next to Zelensky on Ukraine's Independence Day, close to fucking 3 years into this bullshit invasion into Ukraine. The significance of that alone shook the world. It made the people of Ukraine weep. It made the White House furious because of all the aid and support and rhetoric that Donald Trump has delivered and taken out of Ukraine. It made Canadians so fucking proud. Canada has the largest Ukrainian diaspora outside of Ukraine in the fucking world. 1.3 Ukrainians live in this beautiful country of ours. The majority of them in Western Canada. And Mark Carney is not a dumb guy. Not only does he get that there's capital here for him and Canadians, not only does he say, I don't give a shit, he labeled Putin a criminal, a war criminal, and placed all the blame directly at the feet of Vladimir Putin, while Donald Trump is pulling aid, threatening Zelensky, threatening the Ukrainian people. Mark Carney snuck in and became the new leader of the free world. He became the new most important ally. And during the press conference to Ukraine, during the press conference, Mark Carney was asked, so what does the security guarantee look like? Mark Carney's smart, kind of like the South Korean guy this morning. He's like, oh, I'd love to play golf at one of your golf courses in North Korea. Mark Carney was like, well, if it wasn't for the transformative nature of Donald Trump, we wouldn't be here. However, I am not excluding boots on the ground as part of any security guarantee. Canada's here. Boots on the ground sent another shockwave, not through the White House this time, but through the fucking Kremlin. Now, the Kremlin is very angry. They carried parts of this on some of their stupid state-run, late-night talk shows where they're like, we should just drop a bomb on Canada. And they literally carried Mark Carney's comments, and they effectively said, that guy needs to leave. That guy's got to go. Because Mark Carney is literally standing shoulder to shoulder, giving Ukraine everything they need financially, militarily. When it comes to raw materials, processes, Ukraine has also entered an agreement with Canada to help us build out our drone tech and drone warfare to protect our borders. This is such a beautiful fucking announcement. It was such an incredible announcement. And it was so game-changing, but it was also so infuriating for Donald Trump and the Trump regime because Mark Carney did what Joe Biden was doing that Donald Trump abdicated all responsibility from. Lead with Ukraine, stand next to Ukraine, help Ukraine, tell everybody our support is unwavering. And so in the next 30 days, Lev has a great piece of his Substack. Donald Trump plans on walking away from Ukraine. Mark Carney knows this. And Mark Carney had to fill that gap this weekend. And not only was I proud to be a Canadian, I was moved this weekend by the emotion I saw in the crowd in Sofia Square in downtown Kyiv of Ukrainians waving Canadian flags, crying, thanking us. And we shouldn't be thanked because it's our fucking duty. Because if it's not Russia, it's us. Or sorry, if it's not Ukraine, it's us. If it's not Ukraine or us, it's Finland. It's the Baltic states. It's Sweden. It's anybody around them. That is next. And Mark Carney knows that. And he went there and delivered the message. And it upset the fucking fruit basket when it comes to Canada's allies in Ukraine. And it absolutely propelled Mark Carney to the front of the line when it comes to being an ally for our Ukrainian brothers and sisters.
That is a terrific, really excellent, coverage there. Dean Blundell.substack.com has been covering the story really well. You've done a great job. So everyone should check out your Substack. But also, just to emphasize your excellent summary there, what we've got here is two sides shaping up. You've got Trump really aligning with Putin more and more and more. If you saw that really cringeworthy photo moment on Friday, I think it was.
Or he pulled that picture of him and Putin out of the desk.
He's like, he's coming to the World Cup, and maybe he will, maybe he won't. But he's looking at this guy like he's some sort of pop star, like he's a complete fanboy kind of view of him. And And, this is a war criminal, as you point out. This is a guy who's committing war crimes right now, who's attacking a sovereign state right now, and who's no longer being a leader of the free world. In fact, his comments about being a dictator and his comments about the War Department all tie into this.
Yep.
This is a man who's turning America into a dictatorship that will be fighting alongside the world's biggest war criminal, Vladimir Putin, against the rest of the world, against the free world.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult matchup, of course, because these guys are very powerful in terms of their nukes, in terms of their capabilities. But it doesn't quite match up to what the people will bring. The people of the world are ultimately interested in freedom.
Yeah.
We're always geared towards freedom. That's where we sort of move towards, and justice. And what we're going to see is the same kind of resolve the Ukrainians have had against the Russians. We're going to see that everywhere in the free world, because no one wants to lose their freedom, including in America.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now is a war that's being fought, or forged at least, between these two sides. One side is for freedom. The other side is against freedom. That side might have a lot of weapons, might have a lot of technology, might have a lot of stuff going for them, but it doesn't have the people.
No, and it doesn't have the resolve, and it doesn't have the reason, purpose, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have a really difficult time trying to convince any Americans. I don't know if you saw the audio or the video of the National Guard at Union Station, Washington, D.C. today, looking bored AF, twiddling their thumbs. Apparently now you're getting leaks from National Guardsmen and women talking about how this isn't their job, this isn't what they signed up for. You're seeing more National Guards, military people that are being forced to police their own people, including the National Guard in D.C., which just got the green light to carry weapons. Why do you put weapons in the hands of National Guardsmen? So they fucking use them.
And to go into schools, by the way, to go into schools in the first day of, not the first day, but after the first day, they're going to go into schools to pull kids out. Yeah,
it was really nice of Pete Nutsack to say, we're not going to do it on the first day of school, but we are going to have National Guards because there might be people there that have government checks we don't want them to have, and there might be migrant kids there that can take us to their parents. Like, they're literally saying this shit fucking out loud.
They're going to send in National Guards with weapons into classrooms to pull out kids that are not American enough.
Sixth graders from a family who might not be American enough, or a dad who is undocumented, or going through the process of trying to become an American, or a mom who, has been paying her taxes for 20 years. They're going to go to those schools, the National Guard. And by the way, they're not just doing it there. They're going to do it in 17 to 19 other states, all blue states, all blue cities. So, the dictatorial nature of this man is proven out by his actions. And this is what he wants. This is who he is. And we're fucking here, friends. I don't just tell you, but we are.
To concentration camps here, not even domestically. They could be sending them to Uganda or wherever.
Yeah, did you see that thing about Kilmar Abrego Garcia? Yeah, this poor bastard comes back from CCOT after being terrorized, victimized, tortured in an El Salvadorian fucking gulag. Herculean work and outcry. He comes back. They charge him with human trafficking. He gets off of that charge because it's a bullshit charge. Spends 3 days at home with his family, has this beautiful reunion. And then today had to report to U.S. Customs and Immigration, where ICE arrested him again. And the Trump regime said, now we're sending this fucker to Uganda.
Unbelievable.
That's a dictatorship.
This whole thing is a dictatorship. This whole thing is Nazi Germany. We're heading into a world war with the same kind of mentality that set up Nazi Germany, that set up World War II. And this is not acceptable to anybody, obviously, but this is where we're going. And how we stop it is going to be an enormous amount of determination by people and creativity by people. Because what we can't do is the same old thing of just like researching, institutional, let's just wait for the next election.
Yeah.
No, we need to be really creative. We need to be really smart, and we need to be very different in our approach to this. And part of the great thing is that Canada didn't fall to Pierre Poilievre, because that would have been a disaster for the world. Part of the great things is that we've got Mark Carney in power there in Canada, which is so important. And it's so, it does give the free world a beacon, which is so necessary right now. But we don't want to fight this war. I mean, no one wants a world war. We need to find a way to resolve this problem of Donald Trump without a world war. And if it does come to a world war, we want to absolutely minimize the catastrophe that will be set upon this world, because we can't afford to have a nuclear holocaust. No. We can't afford to have all of these terrible things that will lead us that will come out of a World War III. There's a lot at stake, obviously.
Oh my God. I mean, not just the way of life, but your ability to move freely, your ability to post something online. There's a video the other day of a 20-year service member.
Mm.
It's a gentleman who got called in and fired from his position with the military because he posted something that was anti-Trump. And there's another story that you can go to my Substack. You can read it. 14,989 Canadian cell phones were either confiscated or invasively searched for what? Anti-Trump content. Specifically, just anti-Trump content. And those stories, along with the Abrego Garcia story, along with the story literally of probably hundreds of thousands of people legally in the United States, stories of Johnny Noviello, 49-year-old Canadian that died in custody, Jasmine Mooney, the young lady who's still missing, swimwear salesperson, woman that had her own business from Canada. Her family hasn't been able to find her now for 4 fucking months. And those are just the Canadian stories. And I'm Canadian, so I talk about them because they're important to me. But the hundreds of thousands of other people, and all of this to be said is that there is an audience for this. I see it all the time online. People going, yeah, get those fucking people out of the country.
Oh,
Negative
yeah.
migration. 1.5 million people left the United States, then came to the United States last year. And Trump's cheering about that. When you talk about tourism numbers, he's cheering that people aren't coming there because the wrong people shouldn't be coming here. But they're literally decimating the travel industry, like a 32% drop in Canadians crossing the border in this last quarter alone. So, and I mean, the drops are even more significant from other countries, specifically Spanish or European countries. Japanese, they're not going to the United States anymore because everybody's deathly fucking afraid. And then, being able to spin this back, Donald Trump today is talking about it on the weekend where he held up that picture that Putin sent him and he wanted to sign. And he's fanboying over it. He announced that he'd probably going to watch a couple games with Putin in the box. He's probably going to invite him here, and they're going to be chummy and stand side by side. Keep in mind, that guy is a dictatorial, genocidal fucking maniac who kills his own people, war criminal that throws. He's wanted in 132 different countries.
Yeah.
130, and why? Not only does it find an audience, but you're not talking about the Epstein files. You're not talking about the dump of Epstein files where 97% of what the Trump DOJ gave Congress is in those stupid little fucking binders that he put out where he psyched every single right-wing influencer out with publicly available material that was already heavily redacted. We're also not talking about, which is very interesting, the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff, how she lied her ass off for I don't know how long. And so, as we pivot to the Maxwell Epstein shit as the last part of the FiveStack, remember that. Remember that, his ability to be mean, his ability to hurt Americans, police Americans, send the military after Americans. He wants it. There's an audience for it, although small. And I know everybody's getting sick of it, but it is still meant not only to acclimatize you to a police state and his dictatorial regime, which he let the cat out of the bag of today, but it's to distract you from his ongoing involvement and the criminal fucking cover-up going on right now that just got turned up from 10 to 20 on Friday with the Maxwell interview and the faux dump of Epstein files.
I'll tell you how long it really is. 5 hours and 25 minutes is the whole proffer. I listened to
I thought it was
most
10
of
hours.
Well, it all cuts down to 5 hours and 25 minutes once you actually take out all the breaks and all the bullshit and all that. Hello, how are you?
The important stuff. Take out the truth.
Yeah. And then the truth, let's talk about the truth. So I think they sat around for a long time. They also give a lot of breaks. I thought it would be nice for us to just go through some of these clips and really I try to identify maybe a few of the top lies that Ghislaine Maxwell told during this proffer. And the reason for that is because she's got immunity. She can say whatever the hell she wants.
Yeah.
And once you've established one or two lies, you can sort of figure out that she's telling a lot of lies. So, it's not that hard to know that she's lying about a lot of things once you figure all these things out. The other part of this is this was part of a deal, obviously. This was part of a deal to get her into a minimum security camp, a prison camp, which is like Club Fed, people have called it. And it is a very luxurious place where she gets to go to yoga classes. She gets to leave every day if she wants.
Did I hear they have Pilates there for the inmates
Pilates,
too?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And puppy training and
she can't do the
chef
puppy
school?
training. Yeah,
Because she's a violent criminal. She wasn't allowed to do the puppy training, right? That's what I read.
But she can't leave. She's got to work. She's got work release things. She can go every day to work. But this is insane. Like out in the public, unsupervised, just going around. A pedophile? a human trafficker who recruits young girls from various places and turns them into prostitutes. This is the person that we're allowing to go through this thing, and this is the person that the president's personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, who's also the deputy AG now, decided to have a sit down with, which is the softest sit down you've ever had. I mean, there are no tough questions in this entire thing.
And can I just juxtapose that with something that Lev said today, who's been through a similar experience?
Yeah.
He was grilled for days by the DOJ and other lawyers. What I heard in the Maxwell interview tapes was a softball questions, no pushback, no assertion that if you lie you're in trouble, because she's not gonna. She had proffer immunity, so she could do whatever she wants. Lev told me today, he goes, they basically destroy you in these meetings.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to get to the bottom of something or trying to get to you to perjure yourself.
Yeah.
What I heard was such a load of shit. That's not real life. That doesn't happen in real life. So anyway, to further your point,
Yeah, I mean, there are no follow-ups here. There's none of the things you'd expect. But, even in the no follow-ups, there's so much bullshit that it's really hard to actually believe that they let her get away with this. So one of the things she talks about is how there was really no intelligence agency connections to Jeffrey Epstein and any spy agency around the world, which is just not true. It's just not true. There are at least 3 that he's attached to or connected to. Maybe the KGB, definitely the Israeli military intelligence, and possibly the CIA. So, there's 3 very significant intelligence agencies. But this is how she answers this question when she's asked about his spy connections. Wait a second.
I think that I don't remember anything like that. I just don't think he had the wherewithal. And I think that whole aspect of that is, can I use a bad word?
Yes. Yes.
Bullshit.
And what do you think is bullshit? Meaning, what do you mean? Would you have known if would he have been bragging to you? Would he have been saying these things?
I think he was, because I think that, I think one of the reasons why he liked me was because of my family connections, and why he liked other people was because they were cool or whatever. And I think that certainly early when I met him, he would have tried to impress me or tried to show off, if you will, like he was that guy, and he wasn't that guy. And I think that he would have tried to bullshit me, and he didn't. So I think it's he may have tried to bullshit me, but no.
Right.
Okay.
So,
nice of Todd Blanche to go, oh, really? Tell me more. Yeah, let's just check that box. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't involved with the fucking CIA, Mossad, and the KGB.
Yeah. He feeds her the question, right? He basically feeds her the answer. He's like, so he would have been the kind of guy who would be bragging about this stuff, wouldn't he? I mean, that's so leading. It's ridiculous. But then that is actually her rationale for saying that he wasn't and she wasn't involved in a spy agency or doing any intelligence work. So the rationale is that he would have bragged about it had he been.
Yeah. There are thousands of sources. I always go back to Zeb's sources because he has incredible sources and has been dogged talking to everybody from Vicky Ward to Steve Hoffenberg, researchers and people involved with him.
Yeah, Ari Ben-Menashe is the key person here. And
Ari Ben-Menashe.
I mean, he's a spy. He's the real deal. He was one of the head spies for the Israeli military intelligence. He worked with Robert Maxwell, proven to have worked with Robert Maxwell in the
Canadian guy, by the way. Ari Ben-Menashe
lives in Montreal. Yeah, Montreal is where I met him. And he's kind of scary guy, in my opinion. And he's got this big guy named Boris that was hanging around with him a lot, and it was a little scary. But I believe what he said because he's written a lot of this in a book. He's said the same thing over and over again, and other people have backed him up. That that Ghislaine and Jeffrey worked for Israeli military intelligence, and that was part of the scheme that they were involved in. That was the kidnapping, the blackmail that they were doing amongst these young women that they had procured or had recruited into becoming prostitutes. Basically, we got them at a young age for precisely the reason that they wanted to compromise politicians. They wanted to compromise politicians who were especially anti-Israel or more pro-Palestine. And so that's why they did what they did. And the fact that Ehud Barak showed up at the Jeffrey Epstein mansion on several occasions.
Every month for 12 months.
Yeah. Yes, and more. Years before and after that, he was working with the guy because he was the defense minister in the Israeli government. And the Israeli military intelligence actually happens to report up to the defense ministry, which would have been, he would have reported direct, ultimately his supervising entity would have been the minister of defense.
Mm.
And that's why Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are suspected of working for Israeli military intelligence. It's not because he would have bragged about it or not bragged about it or whatever reason she was trying to give there. It's because they were doing it. And that's why the defense minister and the future prime minister at the time of Israel would visit them so often because he was working with them.
Didn't Alex Acosta, the guy that gave him that sweetheart deal, prostitution instead of sex trafficking and raping thousands of young girls, didn't he admit that Jeffrey Epstein was connected with the CIA, if my memory serves me correctly?
He said they were
on
connected
the
with
record.
Intelligence.
Yes.
And it's interesting because that quote is often credited to Acosta's interviews with the transition team that appointed him the labor secretary in Trump's original cabinet, in the 2016 cabinet. But there's an earlier reference to that people don't pay much attention to. And that is during the actual trial that was being set up, or the attempt to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein, and during a later trial, Costa said that this case could not be charged on a criminal basis because it was an espionage case. It belonged to espionage. And that's where it really came from. That's the original quote came from. So, we got two references there by the guy who was involved in making the sweetheart deal and who later gets a reward from Trump as labor secretary. And this is where you find the espionage quote originating from. So there's no doubt in anyone's mind. I mean, look, they've sat through court cases. He was found guilty ultimately of a crime. It wasn't the crime, but he was found guilty of a crime. We just know that he was working for intelligence services, and it's backed up by the fact that all these other crimes were covered up by the blackmail. And that's, they needed that as the way.
That was the tool.
That was the tool. And we even know who was compromised. So it's a lie that he was not part of an intelligence service and that she wasn't. And the fact that Todd Blanche would sit in front of Ghislaine Maxwell and not ask the question, well, were you working for the Israeli spy services? Because, people say you were. People that believe you were. Were you doing it? No. The president of the United States personal attorney and the deputy attorney general did not find it useful to ask.
And the president's personal attorney and the deputy attorney general of the United States, Todd Blanche, I imagine would have access to all kinds of government information where he would be able to read the same thing that you just repeated that Alex Acosta said twice.
Yeah.
And for him not to ferret that, go down that rabbit hole, it proves out in more ways than one what the fuck happened. This was choreographed. Maureen Comey, 5 days before, gets let go. They get a proffer agreement in place. They say, oh, she wants to talk. And then we get news this last week that a former inmate, friend of hers, said that Ghislaine tried to ask Biden for a pardon, saying that she'd give up all the dirt on Trump. And then when Trump comes to power, she's like, I'll do anything you want. Give me a pardon and I'll give you all. I won't give up any dirt on you. I mean, and this is, keep in mind, a pathological liar and a woman who is doing serious fucking time for trafficking and raping thousands of young children. And she's also been proven out in her last court appearance where she got convicted of those things to be a liar. She perjured herself several times, including one time where she lied about her weight. I mean, this is not someone that fucking tells the truth. And if you listen to that and you have these receipts and you have these conversations, which is the importance of everybody sharing and hitting those hearts and sending this to people that need to see it, that just don't believe that this is true, All you have to do is listen to people like Zev, read their stuff. All you have to do is pay attention to the fucking signpost that Ghislaine Maxwell clearly lied about having any involvement and Epstein's involvement with any agencies, because it's been admitted several times by the United States government that he has.
Yeah, I mean, he had several meetings with Bill Casey as well, the former CIA director that Jeffrey Epstein did. So, and this is just, nonsense, of course. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, very connected to the KGB all the way through till his death. There's no doubt about that. He had a handler. The KGB chairman was his handler. So, this is a spy family. This is a spy story, and these guys were spies. I mean, that's just the nature of the thing. And by the way, Todd Blanche would have had access to way more than I had. He'd have access to all the counterintelligence efforts of the FBI for 40 years.
Yep.
He would know a lot about what was really going on. He just chose not to go there. Here's the next one that came out. She doesn't believe, this is kind of funny because they actually do come back at her here with a decent response. She believes that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. And here's why.
He had reasons to.
Sorry, I might have to restart this here.
So you think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide. No.
Do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
And I ask that because if you don't believe that there's any truth to the allegations of blackmail, or that he had kind of a list, or that he had reasons to have people hate him, why would somebody kill him in prison?
She doesn't actually answer the question. They take a break, but it's just ridiculous. But he actually gets her there.
It's actually not a bad question.
The question is actually right. Why do you think he would have been such a threat to everybody? Why did?
Yeah, but that's not what he was getting to, Zev. Like, I don't think that's what he was getting to there. What I think he was getting to there was, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Case closed. Right? I think that's what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's ultimately what he's saying. Yeah. Yeah, he's saying, he killed himself, and your answer isn't actually right. So.
Yeah, your answer's not right. He killed himself. Like that. Yeah. That's again, like, and I'm no legal scholar. I'm no lawyer. Thank God I'm no Dershowitz.
It's a leading question.
That is a fucking leading question if I've ever heard. I watch a lot of true crime shows.
Yeah.
No, I don't. But I'm smart enough to understand what he fucking did there. Yeah. And what he did there was try to insert some kind of narrative that, well, you don't know if Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and if no one wanted to kill him, then, well, how do you know he killed him then? And the other thing that he said in there, which is interesting, is he didn't say may have killed himself or may have committed suicide. He said, well, who killed him then?
Yeah.
Not who may have killed him. Well, who killed him? That is like some of the worst. That's the Attorney General of the United States.
And Donald Trump's attorney contesting the truth, the very facts, of the case. And obviously, we don't know how he died, but there is a lot of evidence that he did not die by suicide.
I know how he died. He choked to death. Someone choked him to death. Yeah, that's how
I don't think it's as I've said many times, it's really difficult of a two-tiered bunk bed. If you're a 6-foot something guy, to hang yourself off a bunk bed. Like, I mean, it's just the logistics of that is very complicated. You would have to have enormous force. I don't know how you would land up dead. But then also the obvious one is that the autopsy run privately by his brother clearly showed that this was not the case, that he was, the strangulation and the way he was strangled.
Yeah, they broke the hyoid bone in his neck, not something that happens with people that hang themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah,
well, consistent with strangulation by some, strangling you, not.
And that wasn't the only third-party autopsy done on Epstein. 2 other ones basically said, yeah, I mean, you can't apply that kind of pressure unless someone's reefing on your neck. He was strangled to death.
Yeah, so
he was murdered.
Makes sense. And there was an attempt on his life previously. So someone was trying to kill him, and we know that someone was trying to kill him. And then there was this ridiculous absence of all the guards, and everyone was just disappearing.
And video that it wasn't even his room, but was somehow missing. And by the way, fucked around with, according to Wired, the metadata fucked around with 30 times, meaning they edited it 30 times selectively to get it out there. This is not none of this is A, normal, and B, all of it is a cover-up. It is still a criminal conspiracy to defraud the American people of the fucking truth. That is all
so
this
important.
is.
Dean, that is exactly the point. You've got this interview which makes no sense. You've got the fact that there was a quid pro quo with the president of the United States giving her a lighter sentence, like practically no sentence, like at a camp instead of a prison. And then you've got all these things that are just basically lies, that are just complete sweeping things under the carpet. Whether it's the FBI files that they released, as you mentioned, to the Oversight Committee. I mean, they're laughable. They're things we already all knew. There was nothing new in those FBI files. So there's nothing new that's being released because there's a cover-up. They've literally covered up the truth of what the president did. And the president is involved in this cover-up, and that is a crime. Last time I checked, obstructing justice in a conspiracy like this is a significant crime. And under normal circumstances, no, these aren't normal, obviously, but under normal circumstances, this guy would be out of power very quickly.
Yeah. Let's underscore something else.
Mhm.
The importance of taking over law enforcement in Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
Okay? If and when, and the timing of this, not only is box of wine, hammered ass wasted, Judge Jeanine Pirro, the Attorney General of Law Enforcement in the state of, the District of Columbia.
Yeah.
He now controls law enforcement. He's now extending the 30-day emergency to have the National Guard there. He controls Metro Police. Well, if this guy, let's just walk through this, gets charged magically somehow through the DOJ, they're like, you're guilty as fuck. We're coming to arrest you. Or worse, he continues to play this out for 3.5 years and decides martial law is important. And he's run out the clock, and he's going for a fucking third term. Who takes him out of office? Nobody.
Bibi Netanyahu is what he becomes. He becomes this guy who's criminal. He's a criminal who stays in jail. He stays in power, even though he should be in jail. And that's exactly what is going to happen to Donald Trump. And they've plotted it out this way. And if people don't believe that's what's going to happen, I don't know. I'd be surprised if he gets charged anyhow. I don't think it's going to get charged. I think this thing is going to get swept under.
What's the date today? 25th? August 25th?
It's the 25th, yeah.
August 25th, 2025. Mark my words, that is exactly what is going to happen. That is exactly what Donald Trump will try and engineer.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
So let's move on to the next thing that Ghislaine says. This is about the black book or client list. Now, you and I both know there is no technically a client list, but there is a lot of data and a lot of tapes and a lot of corresponding things that would suggest that they had some sort of, a filing of
communications, address books,
videotapes of bad things with people's names on it,
pictures,
all sorts of things. But this is what she says:
maintain like a list of people, like a book of famous people that he knew. It's called a black book or a client list or a list. Did you know of the existence of any such list?
There is no list. We'll start with that. The genesis of that story, I can actually trace for you from its absolute inception, if that is what you're interested in.
Well, first, to be short, there is no list, there's no client list, nothing like that.
No, there's nothing
that
that I obviously.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so you say you think you know the genesis. So go ahead, tell us.
I'd like you to know that I had brought some supporting corroborative evidence.
Tell me what it is too, and then we'll get the crop.
Is this? Do you want to take a break here? Because this is
He's having a laugh. Thinks it's funny.
That's why I kept this thing in here, because they're laughing at this. They think it's funny. And they take a break because she's got corroborating evidence for her lie. Yeah. She's come in with a whole story that she wants to sell us all about there being no blacklist and about there being no client list and about being no information about any famous people having any underage contact with any people at all. And so
she can prove none of that happened with her information.
Yeah. They're basically spinning a narrative using the Department of Justice as a vehicle to send out that information, as a platform for her to share her information across the Department of Justice website, in all its parts, in all its transcripts, everything. They're using government resources to send out a criminal alibi, which is just bullshit. It's just not true at all. And I'll let that one sit there.
And by the way,
it's
a criminal alibi that no one in the Congressional Oversight Committee has seen, but that got released to the public before anybody had a chance to scrutinize it.
And they delayed any of her appearances in front of that committee. Now the Republicans on that committee are saying Ghislaine will testify much later. They don't know exactly when, leaving space for this narrative to be embedded into the zeitgeist, so people can then say, okay, this is what she's about. This is what the story really is. I mean, if people are believing this, it's kind of beyond me, but I bet you people in MAGA world are believing this. And I know we don't have too much time left, so let me just pick a couple here that are worthy of just taking a listen to. One of them is around, what should we do? Ehud Barak or Les Wexner?
Let's do both of them. Let's do Barak first, former Prime Minister of Israel, who was seen photographed in a balaclava going in and out of Jeffrey Epstein's house multiple times.
Okay, so let's listen.
What do you remember about him?
I traveled with
Sorry, it starts with George Mitchell. It's getting there.
memorable. I went to. Well, I was friendly with his wife. Start with that, with Heather. And Heather was in New York, so I hung out with her a few times. We had dinners. And I was just friendly, I would say. Separately from her husband. Was friends with Heather. I met Heather through her husband, but we became friends.
You became friends with Heather.
Yes.
Was Mr. Epstein friends with Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Did they travel together besides New York? Did they travel to the island or to New Mexico?
I don't remember George ever at the island, but the most memorable trip I do recall with Senator was to Italy.
Was to where?
To Italy.
Ah, okay.
We went to Rome.
As the four of you? So Heather and Mr. Mitchell and you and Mr.
Sorry, cut that off. That's unfortunate.
No, and coincidentally, John Mitchell was his full name. 92-year-old, former leader of the Democratic Party. I believe he was the head of the Senate, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so at the time.
Senator from Maine, yeah. Democrat. So the only person that she's fingered, Democrat.
And also widely respected. The guy who actually solved the Irish conflict is George Mitchell, the guy who was largely credited for solving that. Now, why would this, ordinary daughter of a press baron who's now as an assistant to this guy who's a tax dude have so much interest in wining and dining and going on a trip with George Mitchell to Italy? Why would they do that? This is the guy who has so much political influence, who could sway the Irish peace process, who may have even attempted to sway the Middle East peace process. And so why would someone have so much interest in him to go on a trip with him to Italy? Unless you are trying to compromise him or at least influence him. And he is one of the people that are listed as potentially having one of these underage contacts with these underage people. But this was a setup of a blackmail scheme. This is someone that they set up to compromise so they could control their political outcome.
And coincidentally, the only person that Todd Blanche really, wanted to know about, right? Like, he's like, tell me about George Mitchell.
Well, George Mitchell is one of the key people in, and Governor Richardson, another Democrat, another person that they're really interested in talking about. So yeah, absolutely. You're right to point out that that's exactly the Democrats are the names that are going to come out because that's who they were targeting a lot of. That's who they were interested in more and more and more.
Yeah. And let me say this too. If that's true and they did stuff, they should be held accountable like Republicans. I don't care who you are, who you voted for, who you ran for, what party member you're. Just give me all the names.
Yeah. And we shouldn't be protecting people because they were involved in these things. We just shouldn't be, this should not be part of the process. Do we have time for one more here?
Oh yeah, for sure we do. Dude, I'm enjoying this. We got about 1,000 people watching right now.
How about Harvey?
Really riveted.
How about Harvey Weinstein?
Mr. Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein.
What would you like to know?
Do you know him?
Yes.
How do you know him? I guess when I say how do you know him, it's a relation you had kind of separate from Mr. Epstein, or did you meet him through Mr. Epstein, or
leading the witness?
I wouldn't say I had any type of relationship with Harvey Weinstein in any context. Socially, I would meet him because I would go to events that Harvey would be at, and also his wife was English, Georgina. And I was, friendly also would be a big word, more of acquaintance. So we would see each other, and I would go to Miramax events. But there was a couple of people who worked for Harvey who I was friendly with. His primary producer, whose name is Meryl Poster, I was friendly with, and
Do you know whether Mr. Epstein had his own relationship with Mr. Weinstein?
He did.
Did they socialize together at the island or in Palm Beach or?
I never saw Harvey at any of Epstein's houses. So socialize, I don't know that they were friends. I mean, I can't see them together either. I mean, literally. But I know that they certainly did. I would imagine, and in fact, I think I have a memory, but I can't. That when Harvey was trying to raise money for whatever his business was called, I can't remember what his business is. Maybe he went there because Epstein was good at raising money. I just don't know. But
let's be clear about who Harvey Weinstein was to the Democratic Party. One of the major donors to the Democratic Party. Another very easy to identify why they would go after this guy as a target. Now, he's a terrible dude. He's done terrible things, and I'm not excusing what he did. But this is clearly another Democrat to hang out there when the real person that they should be talking about is Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump really was involved in all sorts of shady financial
Did you
crimes.
notice that? How they're talking about everybody but him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very little. I'll get to the clip about him, which is really, they say he was just a gentleman. Nobody says about Donald Trump that he's a gentleman. Nobody. So it's so ludicrous. I mean, what would have been believable is, well, he's a pretty of a shit, but, I never saw anything like, completely criminal by him. But that's not what she says. She's saying he was nothing but a gentleman. I mean, that's a scripted answer by...
He was so nice. Yeah. I only saw him a couple of times at different events. We saw each other socially. Do you have that clip? This is the worst lie that she told. Yeah. This is the worst lie that she told. And I mean, she told everything that she said was a lie. Everything she said was choreographed. I mean, not enough is being made of Todd Blanche's incredible fucking snow job softball questions. Not enough is being made of that, and I hope someone digs into that. Someone better than me that has the ability to kind of break that down. But let me just tell you, for Ghislaine Maxwell and the amount of fucking photographs, just photographs. That's why I don't believe in aliens. We don't have any real photographs, right? But the amount of photographs of her with Donald Trump in multiple places over a 20 to 25 year fucking period, looking both of them very comfortable, knowing what Donald Trump has said about her, giving her the sweetheart deal, how he said, I wish her well, her boyfriend died. I mean, be nice, your boyfriend died. How she said Epstein likes him on the young side and she's known Ghislaine for 20 years. She just completely eviscerated every single comment he's made about her over the past 10.
Yeah.
Like, those are Donald Trump's words. Anyway, I'd love for you to play the audio.
I can't find it right now. I'm going to look for it, but I do want to listen to this one more, and then I'll find you the Trump one, and then we can end it. This is a really instructional one. She talks about basically why Les Wexner gave Epstein this house. Like, why did he give her this massive mansion? This is what she says.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So with Les, for instance, it was really all encompassing. It could go from the structure of the business. So he structured or restructured the limited. I know that. And I'll come back to that because I also traveled with him and Les. And I was in business meetings with them on the plane when they were there. So I could observe and I could hear some of this. And whilst I'm not necessarily terribly business sophisticated, I'm sophisticated enough to be able to at least have some knowledge of what was happening. All right. So then he restructured the business. He restructured his entire personal finances and would also handle all of the investment strategy. I don't know if it was 100%.
Mr. Wexner, you're saying?
Sorry, yes. This is all Wexner I'm talking about now. So let's say you had $1 billion to invest. So you would, in people's normal investment portfolios, you'd have, some T-bonds and this and that. But Epstein's strategies would be much more sophisticated than that.
So just staying with Mr. Wexner, this, from what you heard or saw, is Mr. Epstein paid by him in percentages? Like, so there would be a deal and he would be paid, or did you understand it to be like a flat fee? Was he a business partner? Like, how did you understand him to be paid?
I think it was more a la carte. So let's say this is a conversation actually Epstein told me. So it illustrated for me, said if I saved someone $5 billion, he would take a flat percentage of that $5 billion. So he wouldn't have $5 billion back. And he would take.
You think that, is that because you heard him talking about that, or you?
It'd be a combination of both. I certainly told me that, and I heard him talk to people like that. I couldn't. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No.
Did he give? Did Mr. Wexner gift a property in New York to Mr. Epstein?
So we're talking about 71st Street. So I don't know what the business deal was. Because again, I'm not part of his business thing, but I think what happened would be that, let's say Bess owed him, theoretically, for his services, 100 million, or whatever it was. He could have traded that against the property.
But do you know that happened, or do you remember whether there were conversations about that, or are you just thinking that could be one way that it happened?
I'm not sure. And I'm not trying to be, I just don't remember if that's something I know, or if that's something that I remember, or if it's something that I've seen.
Yeah, be sure. Can't remember. Maybe.
Am
I answering the right answer?
Here's a very specific answer.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that information?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Because, they don't want her to answer that question the way she's answered the question there, I bet. She's like, he's basically admitting to some really shady shit.
Did you see Blanche or hear Blanche go, "Are you sure about that? Like, you want to revise your answer?" I mean, Jesus, this is worse than I thought it was, and we did like a whole hour
terrible.
on this on Friday.
It's really, really bad. It gets worse and worse. It's like a bunch of friends who are with their convicted pal, laughing off the experiences of all these victims, laughing off the experience of what this has cost America.
They were having a great time.
They were. You could say laughing, giggling throughout the whole thing. That's funny, to joke about how Weinstein looks, or whatever, when you're talking about the raping of 1,000 kids, and for political purposes and for blackmail and for destroying the economy. So here's the Trump clip. I hope it plays. That's what happens here.
Well, what did you observe as far as President Trump and his relationship with you or Mr. Epstein?
Well, I just want to say, for my relationship with President Trump, relationship's a big word, but I just want to say that I met him, or I believe I may have, because of my father in the 90s.
Yep.
So my father liked him very much, and he really liked his wife as well, because they were both Czechoslovakian. And as far as I'm concerned, President Trump was always very cordial and very kind to me. And I just want to say that I admire his
did I lose you?
extraordinary achievement.
Oh, I still see.
In
still there.
becoming the president now, and I like him, and I've always liked him.
I liked him. He's a gentleman.
That is the sum and substance of my entire relationship.
I admire his extraordinary achievement in becoming the president now. I mean, that is just textbook. Let's flatter the president of the United States so he gives us a pardon. She just does not admire his ability for becoming the president. Now she knows exactly how he's become the president and has very little to do with his ability. It's just a place that he was placed there. She's part of the same team that put him there. So
she admires his ability to become the president in as much as she admires the pardon and the preferential treatment that she's looking for, and to some extent getting. That is all.
Yeah,
that's all.
He was liked. My father liked him very much, and he was loved. Really liked his wife as well, because he was because they were both CERs back in Czechoslovakian people back then. So I mean, loved. I mean, these are strong terms. When we know exactly what Maxwell was doing.
Her dad was a confirmed KGB Mossad double agent. Confirmed.
Yeah. Who was looking for ways to embezzle a lot of Soviet money into the American capitalist system in order to corrupt America. And he found it in Donald Trump, because Donald Trump became the vehicle for so much illegal Russian investments in condos, in Donald Trump's condos. And that's proven fact. There are tons of Russian mob contacts who bought a lot of money under LLCs or for cash only from Donald Trump. And that's how he made his money. And he did that with looking the other way and not caring about where the money came from. And that money was being embezzled to him through Robert Maxwell and later Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, this is the story of Donald Trump's wealth, is him becoming a money launderer for Vladimir Putin, which of course he loves today because Vladimir Putin is his boss.
Yeah.
And that is what they're avoiding talking about because Ghislaine Maxwell knows all of that because Jeffrey Epstein and her did all of that. And that is in the FBI files, no doubt. And that is not being told by anybody. And it's certainly not being told by Todd Blanche.
No. Listen, again, I at the risk of sounding like a broken record, Zev's greatest heist series, and I know you got another one coming out. You might
Yeah.
have another 12. Who knows? You just continue to amaze me with your dogged reporting on this. Lays all of this out with receipts. Narrative.org. Subscribe right now. Share this with as many people as you can. Context and intention are absolutely everything, my friends. Totally. Like absolutely everything. And to understand the context and to understand how colossally full of shit Ghislaine Maxwell is, and to understand what didn't get delivered to the Congressional Oversight Committee on Friday, and to understand that this is a criminal enterprise looking to defraud you, the American people, of information that you want to keep your friends and family safe about the greatest cover-up of the sex crimes of America's rapist in chief, 34-time fucking felon, and all of his friends. That is what is happening here. It is criminal conspiracy to defraud the American people. And if you need that understanding to be able to draw that conclusion yourself, you need to go to sources that have that information. Narrative.org's greatest heist series. You have to watch it. You have to consume what Vicky Ward's doing. Ellie Leonard, you got to talk to these people and listen to these people. You have to go and consume that information. And subscribing to good people who have these receipts is the best way you're going to be able to kind of make your way through the forest and the trees. It's with reporting like Zev's greatest heist series. I cannot stress that enough. Subscribe.
Thank you so much, Dean. And yeah, I'm going to try to get out another chapter. Maybe by tomorrow. It might be a day late, but it's a really interesting one. We're talking about this mysterious group of bodies that showed up in the end of the Soviet Union. You know, there was a coup attempt at the end of the Soviet Union, and after that, 7 people died in high-ranking positions in the Soviet Union, and so did John Tower, the senator who was in charge of a lot of these military kind of dealings and espionage dealings in the Senate. He also died mysteriously in a plane crash. And then Robert Maxwell died all in the same year. That's a very mysterious group of deaths happening at the same time.
There's a lot of that around the Epstein files, right?
Yeah.
Like if you think about not just Jeffrey Epstein, but you go back to Towers, Maxwell, like the time frame with which they died, Ivana Trump, that magically fell down the stairs 2 days before her NDA with Trump ran out. John-Luc Brunel. There are so many different. The body count one I'm looking forward to because that tells a much bigger story.
Yeah, this was in the 90s, so we're talking, a long time ago. But what did those people do? What did they know? Well, they knew where the money was going, where the Soviet money was going, because they were in charge of that. So, and Robert Maxwell was one of the people who knew where the money was going. So was Jeffrey Epstein. I bet you Ghislaine Maxwell knows exactly where the money went as well.
Well, that's probably why she's scared for her life, and she's probably next. And minimum security prisons aren't good for warding off murder. I'll tell you that right now.
It is interesting that she's, she's still around. I'm surprised by that. It's interesting that she's still around. But for what it's worth, I hope she does get to testify in front of Congress.
I do too. And everybody keep September 3rd on your calendar too, because September 3rd is when a bunch of Epstein's victims, allegedly Trump's victims, Maxwell's victims, and victims of this horrific decades-long crime to honeypot, rich, influential people around the world, specifically in the United States, you're going to hear from those women. And I said this at the end of last week's podcast, September 3rd. That is what you want. That is what you want to mainline in terms of experience, because the victims here are the really most important aspects of this. Yes, the defrauding of the American people is one thing, but stealing the lives of thousands, stealing the innocence of thousands of children, That's the most important aspect of this to me, is justice for the victims, Maxwell's victims, Trump's victims, Epstein's victims, victims of this honeypot scandal that has absolutely destroyed families, thousands of young children. And so you've got thousands of families attached to those young children who have been living in a fucking nightmare for the past 17 to 25 years. So September 3rd, mark that on your calendar. That's when you're going to see the fur fly. And I know Donald Trump is absolutely fucking scared to death of that day.
He is. And everyone should check out deanblundell.substack.com for that incredible coverage you had of Carney's visit to Kyiv and his visit to Europe. You've been ahead of everybody on so many of these stories, and that one in particular has been, really excellent coverage. So well done on that. And everyone should subscribe to deanblundell.substack.com. I know you don't like to be called a journalist, but, it's pretty amazing journalism from my perspective. So pretty good work.
When other people stop doing it, human beings have to step up, right? 50% off of memberships, Zevs, narrative.org, 50% off annual subscriptions as well. Founder subscriptions, you don't have to pay ever again, one time only. And the annual 50% off subscriptions, you never pay more. Lock that in for the rest of your life if you want to continue to follow us. And we do that because we love you. We do that because we want you to come with us. We want you to comment. Thousands and thousands and thousands of comments here from just over 1,000 people that are currently watching this Substack live right now. Cannot thank you enough again. You guys are the lifeblood of what we do. It is my distinct pleasure to have you allow us into your homes and your phones and your computers on a daily basis. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Subscribe to narrative.org, deanblundell.substack.com, and have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks so much. Zev, I'll see you later, pal.
Cheers. Have a good one. Bye-bye.